with a medical treatment plan from your doctor to use in the event of an emergency. Okay, let's now look at the minor injuries often encountered on an expedition. Blisters result from friction between the skin and another surface, especially in hot and wet conditions. On an expedition, they usually occur on our feet, but they can also occur elsewhere, such as where the backpack rubs against our backs. If your boots are new, it's important that you wear them in before an expedition. You should protect any sensitive areas with tape and try to keep your feet dry. But if a blister does occur, it's fairly easy to treat. If the blister is small and doesn't cause discomfort, simply cover it with a small adhesive strip and try not to irritate it further. But if the blister is large and painful, you should consult your expedition leader. You may need to protect the area with a donut dressing. You may also experience blisters as a result of burns. In the event of a burn, cool the area immediately with cold water for at least 20 minutes. If cold water isn't available, a wet cloth will do. Don't apply cream or ointment to the wound, but cover it with a clean dressing. Any blisters that form should not be deliberately broken. A sprain occurs when a joint is forced beyond its normal range of movement. A strain is caused by overstretching a muscle or tendon. There are a number of ways you can help prevent sprains and strains occurring. Wear hiking boots with good ankle support. Stretch your muscles and warm up prior to exercise. Avoid walking when you're tired, as this increases clumsiness. And always ensure secure footing by feeling the layout of the ground beneath your feet. The treatment for sprains and strains is essentially the same. If possible, you should cool and elevate the injured area. Then apply a firm elasticized bandage to compress the area and provide support. If you need to continue walking, try to make life easier for the injured person. Their load should be lightened. Provide them with a walking stick, and don't rush their progress. When you go on an expedition, you're sharing the environment with millions of insects and other creatures. Most of the bites and stings you may experience can be prevented using repellent and treated using anesthetic cream. But some creatures can pose a slightly bigger problem. Leeches can be found in some areas, and although they have a bad reputation, they're actually pretty harmless. You can protect yourself from leeches by minimizing exposed skin and pulling your socks over your trouser legs. Use salt to remove them, or saltwater solution if they're on your eye. You may experience profuse bleeding at the bite spot, but this will soon stop, leaving a slightly itchy mark for a couple of days. Ticks are also present in some areas of Australia, and if you're in these areas, you should inspect yourself daily. If you find a tick, you should apply insect repellent or stove fuel for 5 minutes. Then ease out the whole tick using tweezers or a piece of knotted thread, taking care not to crush or squeeze the body during removal. The affected area may swell slightly and itch for a couple of days. Snakes sense the vibration of approaching footsteps and tend to flee straight away. So it's extremely unlikely that you'll even see a snake, let alone be bitten by one. But if you do come across a snake, slowly and carefully walk backwards, lifting your legs high. On an expedition, we're often exposed to conditions of extreme heat or extreme cold. In some circumstances, these conditions can cause problems for people that, if left unchecked, can eventually become dangerous. Because of this, the best strategy is to prevent problems occurring in the first place. In hot weather, you should drink plenty of fluids, avoid activity during the hottest part of the day, don't overexert yourself, wear appropriate clothing, wear a hat, and use sunscreen. The early symptoms of heat exhaustion are thirst, cramps, weakness, headaches, nausea, and giddiness. If you see someone in this condition, get them to rest in a shaded area. Cool them down using a wet cloth, a sponge, or a fan, and give them plenty of fluids. In cold weather, you should wear appropriate clothing and avoid cotton, eat and drink regularly, don't overestimate people's physical capabilities, and be aware that long rest stops increase people's susceptibility to the cold. Hypothermia is a potentially very dangerous condition that arises from exposure to cold. People who are thin, weak, or unfit are especially susceptible. The early warning signs are tiredness, shivering, stumbling, and falling behind. If untreated, this can lead to numerous symptoms which signal mild hypothermia, such as slurred speech, poor judgment, irrational behaviour, poor coordination, and uncontrollable shivering. It's extremely important that the early warning signs are acted upon before mild or profound hypothermia sets in, because this condition is potentially life-threatening. Provide shelter for the affected person, including insulating their body from the ground. Put on extra layers of clothing or a sleeping bag, including covering the head. In wet weather, waterproof the affected person. Give the person warm, sweet drinks or easily digestible food, but don't provide alcohol, cigarettes, coffee, tea, or hot drinks. Now let's summarise what we've covered. Prevention is the best medicine. Your personal first aid kit, blisters, minor burns, sprains and strains, bites and stings, leeches, ticks, snakes, mild heat exhaustion, and mild hypothermia. The ability to understand, interpret, and anticipate changes to the weather is an invaluable resource for people on an expedition. Think about how many of the items in your backpack are carried to cope with the weather. Obviously, we can't turn you into an expert with this program, but we can provide you with some practical information to use on your expedition. However, please note that the information we present is specific to Australia and may not be accurate for other parts of the world. The first task you should perform before an expedition is to take careful note of weather reports. So here's some information to help you understand them better. The weight of air at any location on the Earth's surface is known as air pressure. Weather occurs due to movement in the atmosphere, and this movement is caused by variations in air pressure. Here's a typical weather map. Note the L's and H's. These represent regions of low air pressure and high air pressure. The lines around the L's and H's connect points of equal pressure and are called isobars. Do they look familiar? They should remind you of the contours on a map because the principle is much the same. In a high pressure region, the air sinks and clouds dissipate as water droplets evaporate into invisible water vapour. As a result, the weather is generally fine and sunny. In a low pressure region, the air flows in, rises and sheds moisture as cloud droplets, rain, hail or snow. So the arrival of a low pressure region generally suggests worsening weather. Wind occurs because air naturally moves from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. But as we can see from this graphic, the wind doesn't travel in a straight line from one to the other. It travels parallel to the isobars, outwards and anti-clockwise from high pressure zones, and inwards and clockwise towards low pressure zones. Although there are exceptions, in Australia the weather patterns generally move from west to east. Therefore, if you face into strong winds in open areas, you can actually make rough predictions about the weather. If the wind is coming from the north, you can deduce that the low pressure system is on your left. So you'd better prepare for worsening weather, especially if the wind is getting stronger. But if the wind is coming from the south, the low is again to your left and moving eastward, so the weather should improve. Watching the clouds is another way to forecast weather. There are three main cloud levels: low, mid and high. In southern Australia, high-level clouds such as cirrus or altocumulus moving in from the west may indicate an approaching frontal system that could arrive in the next 12 to 36 hours. In tropical areas, the frontal system may arrive even earlier. Fluffy cotton ball cumulus clouds may start to appear during sunny afternoons as the warming earth heats the air, which then rises. If there's a lot of moisture in the air, this can become unstable as the air is driven higher by the heat produced from condensation. In some cases, a thunderstorm can develop. While watching this can be captivating, on an expedition it's important that you concentrate on moving away from exposed areas like ridges and slopes. Thunderstorms can be a challenging experience on an expedition, but there are a few tips that will help you deal with them. If you see a green tinge to the base of a thunderstorm or a whitening of the rain, this may indicate the presence of hail or snow. You can roughly estimate how far away a storm is by counting the seconds between a lightning flash and the following thunder. Noise from thunder travels 1 kilometre in about 3 seconds. So use this estimate to plan your next move. Lightning discharges seek the shortest route between the clouds and the ground, so mountain peaks and natural projections tend to receive the most strikes. And when the lightning strikes, it sends out earth currents around the site of the strike. So you should avoid tucking yourself up against cliffs, mountain peaks, or isolated trees. The safest way to wait out a thunderstorm is to sit on your pack with your knees up and your hands in your lap. This lessens the chance of current flowing through vital organs in the unlikely event of a strike. And stay out of any areas that look like watercourses in case of flash flooding. It's also useful to understand the effects of mountains on the weather. The air pressure at the top of a mountain is less than at the base, so on windward slopes the cooling air can produce clouds, rain and snow. But on the lee side of the mountain, which is sheltered from the wind, the clouds will dissipate at a high level, creating improved weather. So if you have a choice of routes when experiencing bad weather in high country, head for the lee side with the wind at your back. On a clear day, the ultraviolet light at 1,200 metres above sea level is twice the amount you experience at sea level. So wear appropriate clothing, a hat, and use sunscreen. The temperature will decrease as you increase altitude, as much as 1 degree Celsius per 100 metres in dry air. So take warm clothing even if the temperature feels warm at the base of the mountain. Now let's summarise what we've covered. Air pressure, isobars, high pressure zones, low pressure zones, wind, clouds, thunderstorms, lightning, mountains, ultraviolet light, and temperature. So, there you have it. You should now have enough information to understand basic navigation, first aid, and reading the weather. The only thing we haven't told you is what to do if your compass gets taken over by aliens and leads you into unknown territory, where you get bitten by drop bears and hoop snakes, and then you're caught in a blizzard with a bushfire.